Number 5. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. In late January 1959, 9 experienced hikers embarked on a treacherous skiing expedition through the freezing Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union. Led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, the group set up camp on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl, a mountain ominously named Dead Mountain by the local indigenous people. During the night, something terrifying and inexplicable caused the hikers to desperately cut their way out of their tent from the inside and flee into the sub-zero blizzard wearing only their socks and sleepwear. Weeks later, search parties discovered their frozen bodies scattered across the mountainside, launching one of the most terrifying unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. The state of the bodies only deepened the enigma. While some hikers died of hypothermia, others suffered inexplicable, massive internal trauma. One victim had a fractured skull, and 2 others sustained severe chest fractures comparable to the force of a high-speed car crash, yet there were no external wounds. Even more disturbing, one hiker was missing her tongue and eyes, and traces of high-level radiation were found on several pieces of their clothing. Soviet investigators concluded that a compelling natural force had caused the deaths and abruptly sealed the case, keeping the files highly classified for decades. Countless theories have been proposed to explain the incident, ranging from an avalanche and infrasound-induced panic to Soviet military testing, Yeti attacks, and extraterrestrial involvement. While a recent Russian investigation suggested a rare slab avalanche was to blame, many experts and relatives remain deeply unconvinced. The bizarre combination of sheer panic, missing organs, radiation, and the extreme force of the injuries ensures that the Dyatlov Pass incident remains a chilling testament to the unknown horrors that can lurk in the desolate wilderness. Number 4. The Hinterkaifeck Murders. The Hinterkaifeck murders stand as one of the most chilling and brutal unsolved crimes in German history. In the early days of April 1922, the residents of a small, isolated farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck, located north of Munich, were systematically and violently slaughtered with a mattock. The victims included Andreas Gruber, his wife Kazilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, her 2 young children, and the newly hired maid, Maria Baumgartner. What makes the case truly terrifying are the deeply unsettling events that preceded the massacre, suggesting the family was being stalked by a phantom lurking within their own home. In the days leading up to the murders, Andreas Gruber reported discovering a set of mysterious footprints in the snow that led from the dark edge of the forest directly to the farm, but none leading back. He also heard strange, heavy footsteps in the attic and noticed that a spare set of house keys had vanished. Even more disturbing, the previous mate had quit just 6 months earlier, claiming the isolated farm was profoundly haunted and plagued by unseen presences. Despite these ominous warnings, Gruber never reported his suspicions to the police, perhaps believing it was just a vagrant. The investigation revealed a horrifying detail: after brutally bludgeoning the entire family, the killer remained on the farm for several days. They fed the livestock, ate food from the kitchen, and kept the fireplace burning, living side by side with the corpses of their victims. Hundreds of suspects were interviewed over the decades, ranging from traveling vagabonds to disgruntled neighbors and even Victoria's supposedly deceased husband, Karl Gabriel, who was rumored to have survived World War I. Yet, despite massive public interest and exhaustive police work, the identity of the Hinterkaifeck murderer remains unknown, leaving behind a legacy of absolute terror. Number 3. The Black Dahlia. The brutal murder of Elizabeth Short, posthumously dubbed the Black Dahlia by the press, remains the most infamous unsolved crime in Los Angeles history. On the morning of January 15, 1947, a local resident walking with her daughter in a vacant lot in Limerick Park stumbled upon a gruesome discovery. At first glance, she thought it was a discarded mannequin. It was, in fact, the mutilated body of the 22-year-old aspiring actress. Short's body had been cleanly severed at the waist, entirely drained of blood, and positioned in an eerie, posed manner. Most chilling of all, her face had been slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, creating a ghastly, permanent smile known as a Glasgow smile. The sheer brutality and theatrical presentation of the murder captivated the entire nation. Elizabeth Short quickly became a tragic symbol of the dark, predatory underbelly of Hollywood. The press ruthlessly sensationalized her life, painting her as a tragic seductress and fabricating stories to sell newspapers. The killer, relishing the intense media attention, actively taunted the police and journalists by mailing a package containing Short's birth certificate, photographs, and personal effects. The envelope had been carefully wiped clean of fingerprints with gasoline, showcasing a killer who was both incredibly brazen and terrifyingly meticulous. The Los Angeles Police Department launched one of the largest investigations in its history, assigning hundreds of officers to the case and interviewing thousands of potential suspects. The sheer notoriety of the murder led to dozens of false confessions from attention seekers, which severely hampered the investigation. Suspects ranged from doctors with surgical skills to prominent local businessmen like George Hodel, whose own son later publicly accused him of the crime. Yet, despite the massive manhunt and decades of endless speculation, the true identity of the Black Dahlia's killer was never definitively proven, ensuring her tragic story would become an immortal Hollywood nightmare. Number 2. Jack the Ripper. In the autumn of 1888, the fog-shrouded streets of London's Whitechapel district were paralyzed by a series of horrific, mutilation murders committed by a phantom killer who would forever be known as Jack the Ripper. Operating in the impoverished and overcrowded East End, the Ripper targeted female prostitutes, slitting their throats before subjecting their bodies to extreme and precise anatomical mutilation. The sheer savagery of the crimes, combined with the killer's apparent surgical skill in removing internal organs in near-total darkness, terrified the Victorian public and completely baffled the police force of Scotland Yard. The terror was amplified by a series of taunting letters sent to the police and local newspapers by individuals claiming to be the killer. The most famous of these, the Dear Boss letter, was the first to use the chilling moniker Jack the Ripper, a name that would quickly become synonymous with pure evil. Another letter, famously known as the From Hell letter, was accompanied by half of a preserved human kidney, allegedly taken from one of the victims. The media sensationalized the murders, turning the unknown killer into an almost supernatural bogeyman who could vanish into the dense London smog without a trace, mocking the frantic efforts of the authorities. The Ripper's canonical 5 victims, Marion Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, were all murdered within a terrifyingly short span of a few months. Then, just as suddenly as the killings began, they abruptly stopped. The identity of Jack the Ripper has been debated for over a century, with suspects ranging from a Polish barber and an insane Russian doctor to a member of the British royal family. Despite modern forensic analysis and countless books exploring every conceivable theory, the true identity of the Whitechapel murderer remains the ultimate true crime mystery, a dark legend that continues to captivate and horrify the world. Number 1. The disappearance of Elisa Lam. The mysterious death of 21-year-old Canadian student Elisa Lam is a modern true crime phenomenon that continues to deeply disturb the internet. In late January 2013, Lam vanished while staying at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, a notorious building with a dark history of suicides, murders, and serial killers. The case exploded into the public consciousness when the LAPD released security camera footage of Lam's final known moments inside one of the hotel's elevators. The unsettling video showed Lam behaving erratically. She pressed multiple buttons, peered cautiously out into the hallway as if hiding from someone or something, stepped in and out of the elevator car in a strange square dance, and made bizarre, fluid hand gestures while seemingly talking to an invisible entity. The elevator doors, mysteriously, never closed during the entire 2.5-minute ordeal. The footage went incredibly viral online, sparking thousands of theories ranging from psychotic breakdowns and illicit drugs to paranormal possession and government conspiracies. 2 weeks after she vanished, hotel guests began complaining about low water pressure and water that tasted strange and had a dark color. On February 19, a hotel maintenance worker went to the roof to check the 4 massive water tanks that supplied the building. Inside one of the tanks, floating naked in the water, he discovered the decomposing body of Elisa Lam. The discovery only deepened the mystery. The roof was secured by an alarm door that only staff could access, and the water tanks themselves were incredibly difficult to climb into, with heavy lids that would be nearly impossible to close from the inside. The autopsy concluded her death was an accidental drowning with bipolar disorder as a significant factor, but the complete lack of physical evidence explaining how she got into the tank, combined with the eerie elevator footage, ensures the